Okay. So, any of you wondering what Mark C. Smith, myself, what my religious structure or orientation is? My religious beliefs, my religious structure is I don't really have one. I'm like a mixture. I'm kind of like an outcast, sort of. I don't practice religion. Like, I don't practice religion at all. I'm a 50-50 mixture between, I'm half Jewish and I'm half Episcopal Protestant. So I'm 50% Jewish. So I'm half Jewish and half 50, how do I pronounce this? So I'm half Jewish and half Episcopal Protestant. So I'm not a Catholic. I'm not a pure Jewish person. So I'm not really a real true Jewish person. And I'm not really a real true Christian person either. And I don't practice either. So I'm kind of like, my grandfather was born in 1916, so he was very old school. He used to call certain African American people, he'd call them Negro, or he'd call them colored. And I would refrain from using those terms, but my grandfather used colored as a definition of people who came from both black and white descent. So, like, in other words, he called Obama colored. And basically, this mixture thing, my grandfather, he's pretty much saying, like, oh, they're mixed. That's not what I would do. I would not talk that way, but, well, that was just an opinion, I guess. But I think that basically when people say, it's a similar idea, though, as what Grandpa used, colored. It's like, because they could have mixed heritage, in other words. Some African American heritage, some white heritage, or whatever. Like to have an African American, one parent who's African American, another parent who's Latino or something. That's sort of what my makeup was on the religious spectrum is I'm kind of like hybrided. I'm kind of like mixed. I'm kind of split between two faiths, and I practice neither. I don't really care. I consider it more as background, less so much as culture, more so much as just background or family history. The only ones who ever attended church or synagogues in my family were the grandparents or further back. I never analyze things as far as on a religious level. I analyze it more on a, case-by-case, casual basis. Like, don't stop hogging the TV. Blah, 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 blah. What are you doing? So that's what I'm like. Let's see. What was I going to say about this? Some of the older generations frowned upon me, though, because they thought I'm acting like, I mean no disrespect by this, but I like to call it vanilla ice, street style. In other words, where you're not giving people lectures on religious ideas, and you're simply analyzing from more of a casual street smarts level. In other words, I might, if I really want something to happen, I'm generally most likely not going to pray. I'm going to grab a lucky penny and hold it in my hand really tight, or grab a lucky 4-leaf clover, or a good luck charm, or I'm going to keep my fingers crossed. Or I'm going to get something that brings good luck. That's what I'm like. And so, what was I going to say? I think that colored is a bad word. But, for instance, back in the Great Depression, in the 30s and 40s, people, the term African American wasn't really used. The politically correct term was Negro. Better than the other word, right? Yeah, I would think so. Basically, colored was the word he used for people from mixed heritages and stuff. I'm kind of the religious world equivalent to what my grandfather meant when he said colored. But I think it's kind of more of an old world thing for people to question people based on their genetic makeups and stuff. I'm more like, I judge people based on if they're nice to me. Like, I want people to not be insulting to me, not be judgmental to me. That's what I look for. I'm into the real deal. I'm into knowing, the truth behind people. For instance, just because a person simply doesn't care about religion and they really couldn't care less, such as myself, doesn't mean that I'm a bad person. And just because somebody goes to church and is more religious doesn't necessarily mean that they can't be a jerk. It's like, just because I like television doesn't mean I'm nice, or just because I like using Windows XP instead of Windows 7 doesn't mean I'm a jerk. So it's like that. I don't see the correlation, but I think there are key scenes. Like, when I saw the Titanic, and I saw the scene where the first-class passengers were at some sort of a, religious service or something, I felt a little bit of anger, because, I'll explain why. Because I pictured, this is me being a little opinionated, but I pictured the first-class passengers as oh boy, there's just another excuse as to why the first class feels they're better than the third class. But of course, no, because then there are plenty of poor people who are religious. So, but that was just a piece of my what's the word? That was just a piece of my tension towards people who try to prove that make justifications as to why they deserve things more than you do, for instance. I have better communication skills than that loser there who originally came up with that idea. Right, my communication skills suck. Because I have Asperger's syndrome, but I'm not using that as an excuse. I just, the way I am is my social skills suck, right? So somebody could come along and say, I've got much better social skills, I'm a much more charming individual than Mark, so I deserve to reap the financial benefits of his patents more than he does. I'm pre-wired to feel a sense of maybe what's the word? Frustration, or I'm predestined to feel more irritated, get irritated as I witness situations where there's people who feel that they're better than somebody because they've got more religious background or something. Like the church scene, when in a church where you feel do you attend church, blah, blah, blah. I'd be I'd try to think of a nice witty comeback to that, sort of oh, it's not my thing, but God knows who I am, and He knows I'm a nice guy, so it's all I need. That's my outlook, basically. Yeah, God knows who I am. I don't need to do anything. He knows who I am. He knows what I'm up to. We're cool. He's let me do my own thing. It kind of annoyed me, though, where, this is just me. My opinions will die with me when I die. But that whole age-old thing about please place your hand on the Bible that they do at a court, it kind of annoys me a little. Partly on how I'm half Jewish, because it's kind of like, so are you saying that the Bible's the only way? It kind of irritates me a little. It's almost like, oh yes, he's a good man, he was baptized. Oh well, it's kind of like, it's just annoying. It's like, you're the only man in this town with Asperger's syndrome. And only people without Asperger's syndrome are allowed to get all of the people respecting them. I think that people's respect comes from their actions, not from their religion. There's an age-old saying I have. This saying came to mind when I saw that church guy from the Cold Mountain movie. He was naughty, and that made him comical. I thought it made him funny. Basically, he was claimed to be he was a church guy, but he was doing all these naughty things, and I thought that was funny. I thought that was funny because there was some guy who was he was lying to himself, because it's like I would rather not have the religious culture, which I don't have. I'm just saying I'd rather be the way I am than I would, lie to myself and say, oh, I'm religious, but be naughty. Like you are what you are, Either you got it or you don't got it. And if you don't got it, this is one of my favorite sayings, either you got it, either you got it or you don't got it. And if you don't got it, stop kidding yourself, because you're not fooling anyone. So that church guy from Cold Mountain, I didn't really care that he was being naughty. He was who he was, and he knew who he was, and he was all right with that. What I thought was most intriguing about that church guy from the movie Cold Mountain was how he claimed to be a preacher, but he was doing all these naughty things, and that was funny. That was like, and it was a movie based on a novel, so it wasn't like a real person. It was just a movie. What was I gonna say? I like keeping the religious people jokes on the lighter side. Like there was the scene on the Simpsons episode where Ned Flanders kept calling up Reverend Lovejoy or something, and that guy said and he kept hounding and hassling. Ned Flanders kept hassling and hounding Reverend Lovejoy, and so he was starting to sort of like try to dismiss the phone call quickly. And after he hung up on the whiny Ned Flanders character, Reverend Lovejoy says under his breath, "Damn Flanders." Yeah, no, Reverend Lovejoy, and was like, after he hung up on Ned Flanders, Reverend Lovejoy said, "Damn Flanders." I thought that was funny. See, part of me is, I know who I am. I already know, I know who I am. I don't have to act more saint-like than I am. I know I'm not a bad person. I don't want to lie to myself. I want to, not that people who have more background than, not that people with more religious background than I do lie, but I'm saying I know who I am. I know what I'm all about. I know I'm a nice guy, so that's all that really counts. I just wondered what you think of the thing. So, what was I going to say? No, though, I'm not going to lie, or I'm not going to lie. I know who I am. I know what I'm all about. I'm not going to try to kid anyone or kid myself. I'm not going to lie to myself. My outlook is, so religion. And this is, politics and religion are very intense topics, but my outlook on, my own very true outlook on religion that I apply to my life is, God knows who I am. He knows I'm a good guy. We're cool. We keep our distance. But he knows who I am, and obviously, and if he created me, he knows, and so I don't need to prove anything. I just need to live my own life, and we'll keep our distance. We know who one another is. We know one another, but we keep to our own business. Maybe it's part of the Asperger's or autism, but religion makes me feel uncomfortable, makes me feel embarrassed. You ever get in those situations where even I'm assuming that even non-autistics can even get into these situations where you feel almost like it's dreamlike because you're so embarrassed and you feel so uncomfortable and stuff. Those are the feelings I get if I'm in a religious setting. For some reason, I cannot explain. So like if for instance I were zapped, teleported into some sort of a faith healing thing, and someone called me up onto the stage, people could read very clear that I was feeling embarrassed and I was acting strangely, or making weird faces because he looks embarrassed. And people act funny people act weird when they get embarrassed or when they feel uncomfortable with something. They'll say weird things that would almost make the other parties get embarrassed themselves. That's how I get, because maybe partially because religion's not really my thing. So I feel almost like a fish out of water when I try to exclaim my religious stance on things, because I start sweating, I get nervous because I feel almost like a financial analyst trying to fill in for, almost like a financial analyst filling in for an information technology or webmaster's job. So what if I were a what if I were a financial analyst or accountant who was filling in for a webmaster or information technology's job? I wouldn't know anything about it. It strays from what I normally talk about. So you have a guy like me who's a radio enthusiast, and he talks all the time about recording radio stations. Then out of nowhere I go out on a whim and just say something about religion. They're like, that doesn't sound like Mark. That's, I like the old Mark better. This Mark doesn't make any sense. That's what it's like. It's not my thing, So it's like, taking an Olympic diver and having the Olympic diver compete in a skiing event. They're probably gonna, it's like it's not my thing. So that's my stance on religion, is it's not my forte. For those people who base people on religious background, Mark Smith would need to seek out something completely, some other attribute to advertise. That's like when people try to advertise their products in a commercial campaign, they don't want to focus or highlight on the potential drawbacks. They want to only advertise the positives about their product. So like, I don't, lack a religious culture. I think that's cool, and I partially do this for attention, I guess. Like, hey, I don't even care. I sleep in late on Sundays, and I'm proud of it. Sunday is the day I sleep in the latest. Like, it's not that I'm being an attention getter altogether, but there is a certain element of me that is grinning, or that is like smirking, because I want some reaction. See, it's the thing. Like, say if there's someone I know is open about faith and stuff, and I blurt out something like, I sleep in late Sundays and I'm proud of it, or Sunday is the day I sleep in the latest. I have a little grin on my face, because it's like, oh, I wonder what this person's going to say back. I don't really care is not the reaction I'm looking for. I'm looking for the person to get amused. Religion never really played much of a role in my life. I could care less about it. I wonder what reaction. Yeah, that's the thing. Like when I say about, my favorite type of radio stations are small town, full service radio stations with no websites. Small town, full service radio stations without websites that serve extremely rural, middle of nowhere locations that are very difficult to ever get in perfectly, that have the strangest, weirdest, hardest to remember call signs, like WZGJ, Jefferson, Mix 97.3, The Treehouse, the North Country's No Hits radio station. The North Country, don't touch that dial, more great music with no hits is on the way. Touch that dial. Here's one. Don't touch that dial. More great music with no hits is just around the corner. Here on Dizzy 101.5 FM. The great small town radio station with no website. Dizzy 101.5 FM WJGZ Groveton. Mix 96.7 WLTN is my most favorite radio station. It's a great small town radio station with no website, and the fact that it has no website makes me like it even more. Because say you want to know what a logo looks like for a radio station, what do? Well, it's easy. You just log on to their website. Yeah, but what if the station doesn't have a website? But you want to know what the logo looks like. It gets more challenging. Oh, here's one for you folks. For all you good folks out there. What about small town full service radio stations without websites that stream online? The stations that don't have websites but that stream on the internet. I think that's awesome. I would like it if you could get, if Mix 96.7 WLTN FM in Littleton and 102.3 WXXS in Lancaster could stream online. Maybe a possible potential place to post listen live links for those two stations might be the Facebook page for WXXS KISS 102, the North Country's hit music. They now have a Facebook page. They could post the listen live stream links onto that Facebook page, thereby bypassing the necessity to build websites. And they could even post the WLTN FM listen live link onto the Facebook page for WXXS, thereby meaning that the WLTN could stream online but still be without a website. and that would make me be even more intrigued by WLTN. Yes, I have listened to small town full service radio stations without websites that stream online. Usually they'll select a website. Since they don't have a website of their own to place Listen Live link onto, they will have to piggyback their Listen Live link onto a website for one of their top advertisers or clients. And in some instances, maybe even perhaps use the website for the local sporting athletics team of which they air live broadcasts for games. They air games of. So, like for instance, Easy 1240 AM for the Lewiston, Auburn, Maine area likes to air live broadcasts for games, Maine Maniacs hockey games. Had Easy 1240 FM not had a website, they could have posted the Listen Live link for the station